artistic. It was not grand.
Well, for the Seahawks it was, but...
Yes. So I want to start the show with this. I tell my kids this all the time. Solve the problem. I'm not into victimhood. I don't want to hear about your issues. Solve the problem. I don't hang around negative people. Solve the problem. Yap, yap, yap. Lie. I don't get this. I don't get that. All right. Nothing's perfect. Solve the problem. It's amazing in the NFL how few teams could solve their issues and can't. Green Bay can't stop the run. Why haven't they solved it this season? You can trade up to week 8. Coach guys, Chicago offensively needs more juice when Tariq Cohen got hurt. Why can't Ryan Pace, the GM, and Matt Nagy, why can't you solve the problem? What you watched last night is Seattle, a Hall of Fame coach, and probably John Snyder, a borderline Hall of Fame general manager. You watch them solve a problem. So Seattle, we know they have stars. Bobby Wagner's maybe the best linebacker in football. Russell Wilson, one of the best quarterbacks in football. But they had no pass rush. And last night, they solved it. And it wasn't just Philadelphia. They now have 19 sacks in the last 4 games. 5 more than anybody in the NFL, including the Steelers. Now, third down, they were awful. Their offensive line is middle of the pack. It's not atrocious, but it's not great. But when Chris Carton is running, this is a Super Bowl team. There's 4 key ingredients historically to win a Super Bowl. Got to have the right coach. Got to have the right quarterback. You have to have some semblance of a pass rush to make star quarterbacks in the other team uncomfortable. And increasingly, got to have some playmakers. Got to occasionally get an easy touchdown. We saw that with Kansas City over the weekend. You know, the good teams have some playmakers. And Seattle has all of this stuff. 19 sacks, 4 games. And this is what's interesting. So Seattle knew going into the season, we don't have much of a pass rush. And so what did they do? Their general manager, John Snyder, said, all right, let's go get Carlos Dunlap. He started squawking. He wasn't happy. And they gave up a nothing pick to get him. And then right before the season, they gave too much up for Jamal Adams, but they got Jamal Adams as a safety, but plays like a linebacker, and he loves to blitz. And then they had drafted a first-round defensive lineman last year, L.J. Collier from TCU. Didn't do much, hurt his first year. Second year now, he can play. But they solved an issue. And now Seattle, to me, we know there's 3 really good teams in the NFL. Chiefs, Steelers, Saints. Seattle is 4 to me, along with other teams. But they did something that very few teams in the NFL. Folks, you can trade until week 8. Green Bay can't stop running games. Make a move. They didn't. Seattle had a pass rush issue. No more. They solved it. Trent Dilfer and I talked about this yesterday. This is what Pete Carroll does. This is why he'll end up in the Hall of Fame. And Pete can drive me nuts on some things. And Seattle's GM sometimes butchers first-round picks. A couple years ago, took a running back. I didn't get it. He's a bust. Still don't get it. But it happens. It's not science. It's drafting. They're young kids. They're 20, 21. Some have heart. Some have soul. Some have a work ethic. Some don't. You can't read their palms. You don't know exactly what you're getting in most cases. But in the end, Seattle has solved a primary issue. Why doesn't Chicago? Your offense needs juice. Solve it. You got 2 months to make trades. Green Bay can't stop the run. Solve it. Here's Trent Dilfer talking about this yesterday.
Everybody in the talent and coaching business understands the acquisition of talent is important. Where most miss it is the development of that talent. They didn't panic when they weren't getting a pass rush. Now they went out and acquired more talent, but then you have to develop that talent. You have to have it mesh with the rest of your players on defense too. They've tweaked their system a little bit. They're not going to say, we're just going to do this system because this is what we do. They're going to tweak their system around that talent that they've brought in and that they've developed.
By the way, in September, Seattle had 5 total sacks and allowed 500 yards a game in September. In October, they allowed 460 yards a game. In November, they have 22 sacks and are allowing 340 yards a game. Every month, they coach it up, they acquire, they get better, and you watch Seattle last night, and to me, they look like a Super Bowl team because they got the coach, the quarterback, the pass rush, and the playmakers. Not saying they're going to win the Super Bowl, but those are the 4 things you have to have, and one of them was missing in September and early October, and now they've solved it. Like, just because you start a project here, you got to be able to pivot. That's what every great business book tells you. Every company you start within 6 weeks, you're like, all right, we've got to pivot off that. Amazon, Netflix, look, all of them. They pivot off stuff. And it's like Seattle, if Seattle gets to the NFC Championship, they would not have if John Snyder and Pete Carroll wouldn't have been willing to move off their kind of,